In this video, we will introduce ImageButton Selector. A stateless drawable is a drawable object defined in an XML that uses several different images to represent the same graphic, depending on the state of the object. For example, a button widget can exist in one of several states: pressed, focused, or neither. And using a stateless drawable, you can provide a different background image for each state. You can describe the state list in an XML file. Each graphic is represented by an item element inside a single selector element. Each item uses various attributes to describe the state in which it should be used as the graphic for the drawable item. During each state change, the state list is traversed top to bottom, and the first item that matches the current state is used. We have three buttons here. The first one is drawable MDPI, and the name is button normal green.png. Within that same folder, we have one called button focused orange PNG and another one called button pressed yellow PNG. The green is the default image button. The orange displays when the button is focused, for example when the phone's keypad is moved on this button, and the pressed yellow displays when the button is pressed. So let's look at a basic example. First, let's set up our button component and attributes. And we're going to call this ImageButton Selector, and both its width and height are going to be using the wrap content. And for the Android background attribute, we're going to set the drawable new button. Now we have another file called newbutton.xml, which we placed within our res drawable folder. Let's take a look at here first. We have a selector tag, and within it we have an item, and another item, three items. Looking at it, we can see that it has an Android drawable attribute, and then it has a reference to each one of our buttons. So our new button.xml file defines which button state will belong to which image. You can describe the state list in an XML file. Each graphic is represented by an item element inside a single selector element. Each item uses various attributes to describe the state in which it should be used as the graphic for the drawable. So we can see here that we have an Android state underscore pressed to true for our button pressed yellow. We have a state focused to true for our button focused orange. And finally, we simply have the Android drawable to button normal green for any other state. Let's take a look at our app4 activity. Here I have an image button as my instance variable. I call a set content view within my onCreate method to inflate the GUI. And I also call my add listener on button. Within that add listener on button method, I first get a reference to my image button component using the find view by ID. On that image button, I set an onClick listener, and in the onClick method, I make a toast make test, and I display on the screen ImageButton Selector is clicked. So now let's demonstrate our functionality. I already have the Android emulator up and running and my app installed. Remember that if you want to install your app and run your emulator, right click on the project, select run as, and then Android application. Let's see what happens when I click it. Oh, ImageButton Selector is clicked, and if you can see, the color changes. I'm going to hold it down and you can see that our color changes. This concludes our discussion of ImageButton Selector.